In today's video, you're going to learn a series of exercises to work on sitting balance or reorientation to midline or to vertical, which for some of you could be the key to getting you from being a wheelchair user to being an ambulator or someone that walks. And for others of you, it might really be the key component that's going to improve your walking confidence and make you maybe not feel like you're off balance as much when you're walking. If you're new to this channel, I'm Tara, I'm a neurologic physical therapist, and on this channel we talk about anything and everything related to mobility, health, fitness, and mindset in the context of neurologic injury, with the end goal of empowering you with as many tools as possible to take ownership of your rehab and your health, to live an overall more active, more mobile, pain-free, happier, healthier life. Now, before we dive into the exercises today, there is a handout that goes along with today's video that will have pictures and descriptions of all of the exercises that we go over, just to make it more convenient for you to start implementing these exercises into your home exercise program. That PDF handout is available for our gold and our bronze monthly members. To learn more about our membership programs and to sign up, visit rehab-hq.com. So now let's talk about why someone might lose the ability to stand and walk after a stroke or a brain injury. One, and the most obvious, is weakness. The leg will just not support your body weight. I've done a ton of videos, anything that says stance control in it. That is a perfect video if you can't stand or walk because you have weakness in a leg and it will not support your body. But there are other reasons why someone might not be able to stand and walk after a stroke, and that is disorientation to midline or vertical. So what that means is they've done this with people that have had a stroke. They've asked them to draw a vertical line, and what someone ends up actually drawing is a line that's kind of on a diagonal. So in their mind, they think they've drawn a vertical line, and the line actually looks like this. So when someone does that, we say that you're not oriented to vertical. So where vertical actually is, for you, if you aren't oriented to vertical, you're going to feel like you're falling to one side, right? So if you think vertical is like this, when you're actually in vertical, you're going to feel like you're falling. The other reason why this might happen, or why you might feel like you're falling when you're standing, is not being oriented to midline. So what that means is when you are off to one side, you feel like your body is right over the top of your base of support, when in actuality it's off to one side. So what happens? Your well-meaning physical therapist or caregiver tries to put you back in the middle, and you feel like they're pushing you over. So we call that someone who's not oriented to midline. So if you fall into either of those categories, the best thing to do is to go back to the foundation, i.e. sitting, and reorient your body to vertical and to midline. And that is what we are going to go through today. If you are a caregiver, definitely stick around for this one, because I'm going to be dropping some pearls throughout this of things that maybe you should be doing as a caregiver that you might not be doing, or maybe things that you are doing that might be making the person that you're caring for, i.e. the person that has had a stroke, feel a little bit more uncomfortable when they're standing and walking, or they might feel like you're pushing on them. So we're going to go through some tips for you as well to make sure you're providing the most appropriate cues to make your loved one feel more comfortable in standing. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and dive into the progression of activities that will reorient someone to midline and to vertical. All right, so the best setup for anyone who is not oriented to vertical or to midline is to set up boundaries. Now, I talk a lot about this in standing, but it's been a while since I've talked about this in sitting. And the same thing I talk about standing in a corner to help provide boundaries, which gives your body kind of like guidelines as to where it needs to stay in order to be vertical, a corner is a vertical line. So it's training your brain on a vertical line. We kind of create a corner in sitting. I like these steps. They're relatively cheap. These are just like those aerobic steps. So this is the setup. We've created a corner in sitting. And what this does is if someone's shifted off to one side, they're getting that feedback because they're pushing into this step over here. And that will help give them a reference point to realign in vertical. All right, so this is the setup. Feet flat on the floor, and then arms back on the step. Now, if you're someone that has hemiparesis and you don't have use of one arm, that's okay. You can just kind of just let your hands relax, or if you have a caregiver, they can kind of hold your hands in place, but then you just kind of put your hands in weight bearing, because any opportunity we have to get weight bearing through the hands is an excellent idea. So hands in weight bearing, and then you're just going to lean from side to side. All right, do that a few times, and then you want to end in the middle. Okay, now a lot of you're going to feel more comfortable maybe if you have these issues where you're not oriented to vertical or midline. This is going to feel a little bit more comfortable. What I want you to pay attention to is that you're a little bit closer to this boundary wall over here, and see if you can move away from that. Now, there is something else that I don't talk a lot about on this channel, but it's something called pusher syndrome. Now, pusher syndrome is very, very complicated and can feel horrible if you're someone that has this. But pusher syndrome is where someone is not oriented to vertical and they actually push towards the weaker side. So a lot of times that's very frustrating for someone because you're pushing towards your weaker side, and of course that weaker leg can't hold you up, and so you're not safe. And a lot of times we tell you you can't stand when you go home because it's just not safe. You push so hard to your weaker side that you would fall down. Now, if you are a caregiver of someone who is working with someone that pushes to their weaker side, you will know. There's no way to not know what I'm talking about if you're working with someone that's a pusher. The last thing you want to do is push them back to their stronger side. This is a good setup, so still work on this, but when you push them, they're just going to push harder into you. Okay? It just has to do with what's going on in the brain and their perception or their orientation to vertical. You are pushing them to where you think vertical is, but they think vertical is over here. You push them here. They feel like they're falling. They'll push back. That's one explanation, but they really don't fully understand what causes pusher syndrome. There's a lot of disorientation issues or visual perceptual issues going on in the brain. That's one thing that they think might cause that. But the last thing you want to do is manually put them in the middle. The best thing you can do is if someone pushes to this side, move this boundary a little bit out of the way and just work on having them lean onto their stronger arm, right? It seems really counterintuitive that they would want to push towards their weaker side, but remember, their whole perception of where middle is not accurate. So if you push them, they're just going to push harder into you. Remove this boundary over here and just have one step over on their stronger side and just have them sit. That's all you're going to do. Just let them sit. Now, you want to be over here for safety. So if they get to a point where they're leaning so far this way that they're going to fall, you want to think about you're just there to catch them, but you're not there to push them back. You have to kind of let them work their way over to their stronger side on their own. Just trust me on this. You do not want to push them. Okay? So just have them lean. That's for someone that has pusher syndrome, move this step out of the way, okay? But for someone that just maybe isn't oriented to midline, or maybe this is you and you always feel like your upper body's rotated to one side, boundaries and sitting are an excellent way to retrain your brain and your body to position your body in midline and stay there, okay? And then from there, we can start adding some movements. So you can start adding some marching. Now, when you add the leg movement, the key is that you don't want to fall. Now, and remember, some of you might have a weak leg, so you might not be able to get one leg up super high. The whole goal is that you can perform a leg movement and keep your body in midline. So when you start to march, if you feel like you're doing this, you're going to bump into that side, straighten yourself back out. Again, if you have a caregiver that can hold your arm down on the step, that's best case scenario, or you can just rest your arms down like this. If your arm wants to come off of the step, sometimes you can just put a couple of sand weights, little ankle weights on it to hold it in place, to hold it out to the side, okay? You're just going to do a little bit of marching. Lean outside of midline and see if you can get yourself back to midline. And then if you can, and this one's a little bit harder, you're going to scoot your hips forward by pushing down with your arms and scoot your hips back. Now, for a lot of you, you're going to go off to one side or your body's going to start to twist. The whole goal is that you can keep your body as upright and in vertical as possible. And you're just doing a little slide forward with your bottom and a little slide back. Little slide forward and a little slide back. Again, you want to feel equal pressure on both sides of this step when you slide back. Okay, so this is like the foundational setup. 2 steps, marching, keeping your trunk in midline. If you need to use a mirror initially, you can use a mirror. For some people, that's going to throw you off more. So you just have to kind of experiment with that. If you find that you're worse with the mirror, then obviously don't use the mirror and try and just get the feedback from the steps. If the mirror helps, great to use it initially, but you want to kind of pull that mirror away as quickly as possible so that you're not requiring that visual feedback to know when you're in midline, and you're starting to feel that more internally, using senses within your own body to know when you're in the middle and when you are not. All right, now the next tool that is great to work on sitting balance are these wedges. I like these wedges. I've shown them a lot because they have this rubber back on them. These wedges are great for maybe some of you that are shifted towards your stronger side. What you can do, slide one wedge under one hip just to help you feel kind of a little bit more weight or pressure on that involved hip side. So you want to get full weight bearing down through this entire leg. For a lot of you that compensate by leaning towards your stronger side, you might have all your weight bearing on this side and really no weight bearing on this thigh over here. So I'm going to stick a wedge under here, just a little bit. All right. And then what I would do is just start working on arm movements, reaching outside, coming back, reaching outside your base of support, coming back, trying to reach down. Each time coming back to this middle. And then as you get better, you can just kind of slide that wedge out so it's not helping as much. And same thing, reach up, make a figure 8, trying to keep your body in midline the entire time. All right, hands on your thighs maybe, and doing a little bit of marching. Leaning forward, keeping your chest right in between your knees, and coming back. Again, trying not to shift back to what might feel natural, but as you can see, I'm not in the middle. trying to come back to that middle position every time. Or if you're someone that you fall in all directions, then we can pull both of these out initially. Just create a little bit, kind of like a valley that you can sit in. That might also help some of you just to kind of get reoriented to midline. And then there's one other tool I want to show you guys that I absolutely love. This maybe doesn't have to do with midline as much, but what I found of people that have been sitting for a long time or people that don't feel comfortable sitting because they feel like they're going to fall, they really have a tendency to sit back, right? Because you're less likely to fall if you're kind of leaning back in the chair. And then you just kind of get stuck like that. And that can be a real problem when it comes to working on sitting posture and sitting balance. So the other tool that I love, 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 it's something called a nada chair. And this is really for any of you, and I've shown this before, but for any of you that really are rounded at your back, it's great. It goes behind your back, hooks in front of your knees. And then what's great is these two snap together. So if you're someone where your knee flops out to the side, these little pads that go in front of your knees, they actually connect together. And then this back piece goes underneath your lumbar spine and just kind of extends your back up. So from the side, you can see this piece right here keeps that back in and will get you more in that position versus this position, right? So when I do that, my knees actually come up off the ground because the strap in front of my knees really helps to pull my lower back in and get me sitting upright. So if I'm working with someone that has pusher syndrome or has really poor midline orientation and sitting, this is almost a must most of the time because, again, most people are sitting so far back just for safety and security. So this is called a nada chair. If you are a caregiver, it's absolutely fabulous to have this because you don't need as many hands and you can start working with someone without their back supported. All right. So those are just a few tips for those of you that are bedbound. So I do see some comments of some of you that are still bedbound, where some of these tips might be able to help you get from being a wheelchair user to hopefully standing and walking. But that is it for this video. Again, if you want access to the PDF handout that goes along with this video, or you want access to an entire vault of over 400 exercises, you definitely want to check out our membership programs. To learn more about our membership programs and to sign up, you can visit rehab-hq.com. If you're new to this channel and you like this kind of video and you want to get notified whenever I upload new videos, definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so that you will get notified every time I upload new videos. If you want to get free exercises throughout the week, you can head on over to Instagram where I post 1 to 2 videos every single week just to help keep your home exercise routine interesting and add a little variety to it. But that is it for this video. I enjoyed spending time with you all today, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.